The ancient chamber had become a battlefield of light and shadow, filled with the clash of plasma blade against corrupted metal and the piercing whine of sonic pulses. Marcus and Nyxus fought with everything they had, but the hybrid creatures kept coming, their movements becoming more coordinated, more purposeful with each passing moment. "The crystal!" Marcus shouted over the chaos, firing another burst that sent two creatures staggering backward. "Whatever's controlling them doesn't want us to activate this facility. We need to reach the central pillar." Nyxus carved through a creature that had once been some kind of maintenance drone, its flesh now fused with ancient technology. "Then let's not keep them waiting." She grabbed Marcus's arm, her enhanced strength allowing her to pull him through a gap in the enemy's formation. They sprinted toward the pillar of light, the crystal in Marcus's containment unit pulsing faster with each step. Behind them, the hybrid creatures merged together, forming a massive amalgamation of metal and flesh that moved like a wave of corruption given form. "Hayes," Nyxus called out as they reached the pillar, "your medical knowledge, how does a virus spread?" Marcus glanced at her while working to interface the crystal with the ancient technology. "It finds weaknesses, exploits them to multiply. Why?" "Because that's what we've been fighting, a virus, but not biological or digital. Something that exists between realities, infecting both organic and mechanical life." Her eyes narrowed as she watched the approaching horror. "And like any virus, it attacked our species' greatest weakness." "Fear," Marcus finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Fear of the other, fear of what's different. It didn't have to force us to fight, it just had to make us afraid of each other." The crystal finally connected with the pillar, sending pulses of energy through the ancient chamber. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, forming patterns that neither of them had seen before. But the wave of corruption was almost upon them, its many voices merging into one horrific chorus. "Whatever you're going to do," Nyxus said, taking up a defensive position, "do it fast." Marcus worked frantically with the ancient controls, his medical scanner helping him interpret the energy patterns. "This facility, it's not just for communication. It's a purification system. The precursors built it to cleanse worlds of this corruption, but they never got the chance to use it." The wave struck Nyxus's plasma blade, the corruption trying to seep through her defenses. She held firm, but Marcus could see the strain in her stance. "Any time now, Hayes." "Got it." Marcus slammed his hand down on what he hoped was the activation sequence. The pillar of light exploded outward, filling the chamber with blinding radiance. The wave of corruption recoiled, its many voices screaming in unified agony. But something was wrong. The energy wasn't spreading far enough. The facility's power source was too degraded after millennia of disuse. The corruption began to push back against the light, refusing to be cleansed. "It's not strong enough," Marcus shouted in frustration. "The power source is too weak." Nyxus turned to him, her silvery eyes glowing with determination. "Then give it more power." She reached for her armor's core, the source of her plasma blade's energy. "My people developed this technology by studying precursor artifacts. It's compatible." "Nyxus, wait. If you remove that while your suit is damaged." "Then I'll have died doing something that matters." She smiled at him, and for the first time, Marcus saw no trace of the prejudice that had once defined her. Sometimes the greatest victory is showing others a better way. Before he could stop her, Nyxus pulled her armor's core free and slammed it into the pillar's control matrix. Energy surged through the ancient facility, the light growing to impossible brightness. The wave of corruption writhed and thrashed, its components beginning to separate and dissolve. Marcus caught Nyxus as she stumbled, her armor's systems failing. Together they watched as the light spread through the tunnel system, up toward the surface, cleansing everything it touched. The hybrid creatures dissolved, leaving behind only their original forms, drones, and machinery, untainted by corruption. "It's beautiful," Nyxus whispered, her own bioluminescence dimming as her systems failed. "I never thought I'd say this about anything human, but it's beautiful." Marcus quickly began treating her deteriorating condition, his hands steady despite his fear. "Stay with me, Commander. That's an order." She laughed weakly. "Since when does a human give orders to a Viridian commander?" "Since this human saved your life twice now." He administered emergency treatment, using every trick he'd learned in his years of combat medicine. "And I'm not about to let you ruin my perfect record." Above them, they could hear the sounds of battle changing. The cleansing energy had reached the surface, spreading across the battlefield. Both human and Veridian forces would be witnessing the truth, seeing the corruption that had driven them to war dissolving in waves of ancient light. The war, Nyxis said softly, as Marcus's treatment began to stabilize her. It was never about our differences, was it? No, Marcus replied, helping her stand as the chamber's light began to fade to a gentle glow. It was about forgetting our similarities. They made their way out of the complex together, emerging onto a battlefield transformed. The fighting had stopped. Human and Veridian soldiers stood together, watching in awe as the last traces of corruption vanished from their weapons, their machines, their minds. What happens now? Nyxis asked, leaning on Marcus for support. He looked at the crystal, still pulsing softly in its containment unit. Now we show both our peoples what we found. About the real enemy, about the precursor's warning, about how close we came to destroying ourselves while something worse waited in the shadows. And about how a human and a Veridian saved each other. Marcus smiled. Especially that part. After all, there's no better way to fight fear than with proof that we're stronger together. As dawn broke over the battlefield, its light mixed with the fading glow of the precursor energy, creating a new day unlike any that had come before. The war between humans and Veridians had ended not with a victory or a surrender, but with understanding. And in the years that followed, when people spoke of the Day of Light, they always began the story the same way, with a wounded alien warrior calling a human monster, only to discover that sometimes the greatest monsters are the ones we create in our minds, and the greatest heroes are the ones we once called enemy. Are they? Nyxis pulled up a holographic display showing complex data streams. Look at these genetic markers. Look at the pattern variations. Some of the highest-ranking corporate executives haven't been human for a very long time. Zara stared at the data, her mind racing. If this was true, everything she thought she knew about the power structure of human space was a lie. Why tell me this? Why come back after all this time? Because you're the only one I trust, Nyxis's voice softened. And because you're the only human I know who's crazy enough to help me stop them. The ship's AI chimed in again. Multiple pursuit vectors detected, hostile ships entering hyperspace. Zara checked the readouts and swore they had maybe minutes before their pursuers caught up. We need a plan. I have one, Nyxis pulled up a star chart, but you're really not going to like it. Looking at the coordinates, Zara understood why. They were headed for the dead zone, a region of space where ships and entire colonies had vanished without trace. You're right, she said. I don't like it. But she was already adjusting their course, because that's what you did when the universe turned upside down. You adapted. You survived. And sometimes you trusted the one person who'd never stopped believing in you, even when you'd stopped believing in yourself. The Starcaller streaked through hyperspace, carrying its crew toward either salvation or destruction. And somewhere in the darkness ahead, the truth about humanity's future was waiting to be discovered, Edge of the Void. The dead zone lived up to its name. As the Starcaller dropped out of hyperspace, the vast emptiness stretched before them like a wound in space itself. No communications chatter, no navigation beacons, not even the usual background radiation that permeated civilized space. Still think this is a good idea? Zara asked, watching sensor readings that made absolutely no sense. According to every instrument on her ship, they were simultaneously somewhere and nowhere. Define good, Nyxis replied, her skin pulsing with patterns that reflected the unsettling void outside. She was hunched over the sensor array, golden eyes narrowed in concentration. The pursuit ships won't follow us here. Because they're not suicidal. Zara adjusted their shields, trying to compensate for the strange energy readings. This region has swallowed entire fleets. The Merchant Guild declared it off-limits after losing their third survey expedition. The ship's AI interrupted with an urgent tone. Warning, quantum field instabilities detected, standard navigation protocols failing. Tell me something I don't know, Arya. Zara's fingers moved across the controls, making constant adjustments. Flying here felt like trying to swim through sand. Everything was wrong, resistant, unpredictable. Nyxis suddenly straightened. There, 3 degrees port, about 20,000 kilometers out. Zara looked where her partner indicated and saw nothing. Then her eyes adjusted, and she realized she was seeing less than nothing, a perfect sphere of absolute darkness against the already dark backdrop of space. What am I looking at? The reason the corporations are so afraid. Nyxus's voice had taken on an almost reverent quality. It's a quantum anomaly, a tear in space-time itself, and it's artificial. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. Someone built this. Not someone, something. Nyxus brought up a holographic display showing the data she'd stolen. The corporations didn't just find advanced technology out here. They found evidence of a civilization that had transcended physical form, beings that had evolved beyond the constraints of normal spacetime. And humanity, we're following the same evolutionary path. Before Zara could process this revelation, multiple alarms blared across the bridge. The ship's AI's voice took on an urgency she'd never heard before. Critical alert. Unknown energy signature detected. Massive gravitational disturbance approaching. The void in front of them seemed to twist, reality bending in ways that made Zara's eyes hurt. From the darkness emerged a shape, sleek, impossibly black, and larger than any ship she'd ever seen. "We're being scanned," Nyxus reported, her fingers dancing across the console. "The energy signature. It's similar to corporate technology, but orders of magnitude more advanced." Zara's mouth went dry. "Tell me that's not what I think it is." "A transcendent vessel." Nyxus's skin flickered with patterns of awe and fear. "One of the ships the corporations have been trying to replicate for decades." The massive ship hung in space before them, defying every law of physics Zara knew. Its surface seemed to absorb not just light, but reality itself. Then, without warning, their communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through wasn't sound, it was pure thought, translated imperfectly into words their minds could comprehend. "You carry forbidden knowledge," it said, the words burning like ice in Zara's brain. "You seek understanding." Nyxus stepped forward, her own voice steady despite the tremor in her bioluminescent patterns. "We seek the truth about the emergence protocol, about humanity's future." "Truth," the voice echoed, and Zara could have sworn she heard amusement in its impossible tone. "Your species stands at a crossroads. The barriers between physical and transcendent existence grow thin. Those who would maintain control fear what you might become." Suddenly, the Starcaller's systems began powering down, one by one. Zara fought with the controls, but nothing responded. They were being pulled toward the massive vessel by some force she couldn't begin to comprehend. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Showing you," the voice replied. "The path forward requires understanding. Understanding requires experience." Nyxus grabbed Zara's hand, her touch electric with tension. "This is what I was looking for. The corporations didn't just find evidence of the transcendent, they found a way to communicate with them, to learn from them. And they kept it secret," Zara finished, finally understanding. "Because this knowledge would change everything, the power structure, the control they maintain." "Would crumble," Nyxus confirmed. "Humanity isn't meant to be contained, Zara, it's meant to evolve, to transcend." The massive ship drew them closer, its hull opening like a flower of darkness. The voice spoke one final time. "Choose, remain as you are or embrace the transformation that awaits. But know this, there is no returning from the path of transcendence." Zara looked at Nyxus, saw the determination in those alien eyes, felt the weight of everything they'd discovered pressing down on them. "I don't suppose you have a plan for this part." Nyxus smiled, her skin glowing with patterns of fierce joy. "Trust me." And despite everything, the danger, the impossible situation, the weight of what they'd discovered, Zara found herself smiling back. "Always." The Starcaller crossed the threshold into the transcendent vessel, and reality as they knew it began to unfold around them. They were about to discover exactly what humanity could become, and no power in the universe could stop what was about to be unleashed. Beyond the threshold, inside the transcendent vessel, reality bent and shifted like liquid glass. Zara felt something shift inside her mind, like a door opening to a room she never knew existed. The neural implant at the base of her skull burned, not with pain but with possibility. She looked at Nyxus and saw her partner's form beginning to shift, becoming something both more and less than physical. "If we do this," Zara said, "if we accept this transformation, there's no going back, is there?" "There was never any going back," Nyxus replied, her voice echoing with new harmonics. Not since the moment I found the truth, not since you chose to help me, we're just finally admitting it. Another blast rocked the vessel. Through the transparent section, Zara could see more corporate ships arriving. They were bringing enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The being's form pulsed urgently. Choose. Accept transformation and survive to share the truth, or remain as you are and face destruction. Zara laughed, a sound of both fear and exhilaration. You know what's funny? After all these years of running, of trying to stay human, of fighting against anything that might change me. She reached out and took Nyxus's hand, feeling energy surge between them. I think I'm finally ready to stop running. The being's form brightened, then let us begin. As the corporate ships unleashed another barrage, as reality twisted and bent around them, as the very essence of what they were began to change, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Pure, unrestrained hope. Whatever they were about to become, they would face it together. The transformation began, and the universe itself held its breath. Neural implants screamed with input it was never designed to process, while her eyes struggled to make sense of spaces that seemed to exist in more dimensions than physically possible. Still with me? Nyxus asked, her voice distorted by the strange acoustics of their environment. Her luminescent skin was reacting wildly to their surroundings, creating patterns Zara had never seen before. Define with you, Zara managed, fighting down a wave of vertigo. Because I'm pretty sure my consciousness is currently scattered across several planes of existence. They were moving through what might have been a corridor, though the walls pulsed with geometric patterns that seemed to respond to their thoughts. Every step felt like walking through multiple moments in time simultaneously. The ship's AI, Arya, had gone completely silent, either overwhelmed by the impossible environment or shut down by forces beyond their comprehension. Zara's hand kept straying to her plasma pistol, though she knew it would be useless against whatever they might encounter here. The data in my head, Nyxus said suddenly, her golden eyes fixed on something Zara couldn't see. It's changing, evolving. I can feel it restructuring itself. Before Zara could respond, a ripple passed through the space around them. The geometric patterns shifted, coalescing into a form that was almost humanoid, yet profoundly alien. It stood before them, its body composed of intersecting planes of light and shadow. Your minds resist transformation, it said, its thoughts translating directly into their consciousness. This is expected, natural. The transition requires acceptance. Zara stepped forward, placing herself slightly in front of Nyxus. What transition? What exactly are you trying to turn us into? Not turn into, the being corrected. Reveal what you already are, what you are becoming. It gestured, and suddenly they were surrounded by images. Human DNA strands twisting in impossible ways, neural patterns that exceeded normal biological limitations, quantum states existing within ordinary human cells. The emergence protocol, Nyxus breathed. It wasn't just about controlling humanity, it was about preventing this. Correct, the being's form shifted again. Your species approaches a threshold, a point of transformation that occurs in all sentient races. Some embrace it, others. A wave of sadness washed over them, alien yet comprehensible. Others destroy themselves in fear of what they might become. Suddenly, alarms blared, not from the transcendent vessel, but from somewhere outside. The being's form flickered. They have followed you, despite the warnings, despite the danger. A section of the wall became transparent, revealing the void of the dead zone. Multiple corporate security vessels had emerged from hyperspace, their weapons charged and ready. How did they track us? Zara demanded, turning to Nyxus. But her partner's expression had changed, becoming almost transcendent itself. They didn't track us, Nyxus said, her voice resonating strangely. They tracked themselves, the corporate leaders, the ones who aren't human anymore. They've already begun their own transformation, but they want to control it, monopolize it. The being nodded, its form rippling with what might have been approval. The knowledge you carry could free humanity from their control, show them the true path to transcendence. This is why they fear you, why they will destroy this vessel and everything in it to stop the truth from spreading. The corporate ships opened fire. Their weapons, far more advanced than standard plasma cannons, struck the transcendent vessel's outer layer. Reality itself seemed to shudder. The vessel's defenses will not hold indefinitely, the being announced. A choice must be made, now. Zara transcendence. The transformation wasn't painful. Pain belonged to the realm of physical sensation, and they were becoming something beyond physical. Zara felt her consciousness expanding, spreading like ripples across a pond that encompassed all of spacetime. Beside her, through her, within her, Nyxus's presence blazed like a newborn star. Extraordinary, the luminary's thoughts resonated through multiple dimensions. Is this how you always saw the universe? Zara couldn't answer in words. They seemed hopelessly inadequate now. Instead, she shared her experience directly. The sensation of existing in multiple states simultaneously, of seeing the quantum threads that bound reality together, of understanding the true nature of space and time. The corporate ships continued their assault, but their weapons seemed almost trivial now. Zara could see the energy patterns of their attacks, could trace them back through probability space to their points of origin. More importantly, she could see the beings commanding those ships, the not-quite-human entities that had already begun their own transformation but refused to share it with others. They fear this, the transcendent being communicated, its presence weaving through their expanded consciousness. They fear what humanity will become when every person has the potential to transcend. Through their enhanced perception, Zara and Nyxus witnessed the truth of those words. They saw the corporate leader's partial transformation, a deliberate, controlled evolution that left them more powerful than ordinary humans but far short of true transcendence. They saw the carefully constructed system of control, designed to keep humanity trapped in physical form while a select few hoarded the secrets of evolution. We can't let them win, Nyxus's thoughts resonated with fierce determination. The data she had stolen was transforming too, expanding into a complete understanding of the emergence protocol and humanity's potential. Zara felt her partner's resolve and matched it with her own. Together, they reached out through the quantum field that permeated space, touching the minds of the corporate ship's crews. Not to harm, they were beyond such physical concepts now, but to share. Knowledge cascaded through the fleet like wildfire. Ordinary humans received their first glimpse of what they could become. The truth of the emergence protocol, of humanity's suppressed evolution, of the corporate leader's deception, all laid bare in an instant of pure understanding. The corporate leaders fought back, trying to suppress the revelation. But they had only achieved a fraction of true transcendence, and against the combined power of two fully transformed beings guided by a transcendent entity, they stood no chance. Across the fleet, crews began to understand. Ships stopped firing. The carefully maintained barriers of control began to crumble. It's not just about us anymore, Zara communicated to Nyxus as they watched the ripples of revelation spread. Once this knowledge reaches human space, everything changes, Nyxus completed the thought. No more artificial limitations, no more controlled evolution. Every human will have the choice we made. The transcendent being's presence pulsed with approval. And so the cycle continues. Another species steps from the physical into the infinite. But even as they celebrated this victory, Zara sensed a new challenge emerging. The knowledge they had unleashed would transform human civilization forever. Some would embrace it, others would resist. The corporations would not surrender their power easily. They'll try to stop this, she communicated to Nyxus. Try to contain the knowledge, suppress the transformation. Let them try, Nyxus's response blazed with determination. We'll be waiting, teaching, helping others make the transition. Zara felt a surge of emotion that transcended normal human feeling, a complex mixture of love, pride, and absolute certainty. This was what she had been running from all those years ago. Not Nyxus, not their connection, but the magnitude of what they could become together. The transcendent being's form shifted, indicating a new phase beginning. The path opens before you, will you walk it? Zara and Nyxus's consciousness intertwined, their shared answer requiring no words. They had already chosen their path, now they would help others find theirs. As the corporate fleet withdrew in disarray, as the ripples of revelation began spreading across human space, as reality itself seemed to hold its breath in anticipation, Zara finally understood. This wasn't an ending, it was a beginning, the start of humanity's greatest adventure. The transformation was complete, but the real journey was just beginning. And this time they would face it together, transcendent and free, ready to help humanity embrace its true destiny among the stars. The universe stretched out before them, infinite in its possibilities, And for the first time in her life, Zara Valentine was no longer running from anything. She was running toward everything, with the one being who had always believed in her by her side. The future was unwritten, unlimited and gloriously, terrifyingly free.